What's going on, guys? Super Insane 18 here, and today I am bringing you a updated Swordsoul deck profile for the May 2022 ban list. It did lose auroradon, which does mean that we are not playing the Halq combo, but the deck is pretty standard and straightforward, so let's show you guys what we got. Alright, so like I said, it is going to be standard and straightforward, so our ratios are not going to surprise you. We are playing 2 copies of Taya, 3 copies of Moyi, 3 copies of Long Yuan, and 3 copies of Ecclesia. This is just the bread and butter ratios for these Swordsoul monsters. Not really much needs to be explained, it's pretty straightforward. Then onto the Tenyis, we have our 3 copies of Adhara. We are playing the 1 of Shithana. We have 3 copies of Ashina. And finally 2 copies of Vashuda. Really, again, pretty standard and straightforward. I do kind of want to play a third Vashuda, I just can't really find the room for it. I think Vashuda is absolutely insane if you're stuck going second, so I mean, take that with a grain of salt. If I could find the room to keep it at 40 and run a third, I would. But we also have 3 copies of Ash Blossom and 3 copies of Ghost Ogre. I think that Ghost Ogre is very important moving into this format. We saw that the Adventure Engine didn't get hit at all, and we have Pendulums not only getting new support, but getting Monkey Board back, so I feel like Ghost Ogre is a very strong hand trap for this upcoming format. But that's it for the monsters. Onto the spells, we do have 1 of Called by the Grave and 1 of Sacred Summit. A lot of builds I don't really see playing Sacred Summit, but I think that it's an absolutely crazy card, so just being able to reborn anything, I mean any of your Sword Souls or any worm if you have a Synchro, I think it definitely helps you in later game as well as maybe set up some very oppressive boards on turn 1. Then we have our 2 copies of Pot of Desires. Coming back to 2 was really good for this deck. Personally, I've never wanted more than 2. I feel like if you run 3, you run the risk of drawing into Desires off Desires, so 2 has always been the perfect ratio in my mind, and now that we have it at 2, definitely going to play it. Not to mention the fact that this pairing with the Chenying in the extra deck is definitely very strong. Then we have 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. This can honestly be any hand trap. If you watched my ABC deck profile that came out, you'll know that I said I really don't like running more than 2 Droplet, just because of some bad personal experiences, but I did want 3 more Interruption cards, so I mean, if you really want, you can drop the 1 Droplet for another Vashuda, or you can just replace all 3 of these with a hand trap of your choice. I just think Droplet is a really strong card. Then we have our 3 copies of Emergence, our 3 copies of Vessel for the Dragon Cycle, and finishing it off, the 1 copy of Blackout. It is a 40 card main deck, pretty standard like I said. Let's show you guys the extra. So for the extra, we did lose auroradon, which means that we did cut our Halq engine, so we do have 2 cards that we replaced, and I will tell you what they are as we get to them, but we are going to start things out with the 1 copy of Yazi. Yazi is no longer your turn 1 play where you make it and pop it off of your own effects to be able to summon your Taya from deck. This is more of a later game card when you need to clear your opponent's board. You'll summon out the Yazi, pop himself in something else, use the effect to summon another of your Sword Souls, and just keep going. Really cool, not to mention the fact that with the Shaman of the Tenyi, you can reborn it from your grave, do it all over again, so pretty neat. Then we have our Adamancipator Risen Dragite. This is going to be one of the replacements for either the auroradon or Halq, just because I think that a spell Trap Negate is very important. You'll have a water engrave because Moyi is water, so pairing this with like a Chi-Jiao, you then have pretty much all your bases covered. You have a monster negate, you have a spell Trap Negate, definitely really strong. We are playing double Boxia. The reason that I think double is mandatory is because you're going to be using 1 on your turn 1 to extend your plays, and then you want 1 for later game when you need to actually use its bounce effect, so it's just kind of there for that grind game. We do have our 1 Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. There is a combo where you are locked into your Tenyis because you used your Shaman effect, so you do need to run at least 1 Tenyi, plus not to mention just being able to banish a monster is pretty good. Then we have our double Chi-Jiao. This is mandatory obviously because it's not only a searcher for the deck, but it is also essentially like a pseudo effect veiler or infinite impermanence, so really strong. Then we have our Chaofeng. This is a really cool combo just to be able to lock your opponent out of light monsters. Now, that's either going to save you from a Nibiru, or depending on the deck that your opponent's playing, just not let them play in the first place. Then with our Synchro 10s, we have our 1 of Baron, our 1 of Chenying, and our one of Sinister Long Yuan. I think that this is standard. The only additional one that you might want to consider running is maybe like a Ruddy Rose, because Ruddy Rose is just a really good card, being able to banish the entire grave. Not to mention it will make your Tenyi absolutely ridiculous. I just didn't have the room, but it's definitely something that I considered. Then we have 3 Monk of the Tenyi. Now, I was only playing 2, but with 2 extra deck spots open, I did throw the 3rd one in, so this is the replacement for the auroradon or the Halq. I think that 3 helps you in that grind game a lot more because it makes your Tenyi monsters a little bit more viable after later turns. So I definitely think that you should run the 3 if you want to cut it. I completely understand. It's really personal preference. This is just what I think is the correct ratio. And finishing it off, we have the Shaman of the Tenyi. Just a really cool card. Unfortunately, it locks you into Tenyis from your extra deck, but that doesn't really matter. You'll be able to summon out some of your power synchros that are in the grave, and I think that's just really important. So that's going to be it for the extra deck. And there you guys have it. That is going to be my post-Banlist Swordsoul deck profile. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'm not doing any combos at the end of this video because I do plan on making a full dedicated combo tutorial, so keep your eyes out for that. If you liked it, you know the deal. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share with your friends, and maybe consider supporting me on Patreon, because for just $1, you can support the channel in a way that I would never be able to tell you how much I fully appreciate. Plus, not to mention, if you ever want to see the side decks for these deck profiles, I do post them on my Patreon, so there's always that benefit as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.